Ababa, where the African Summit Conference had just taken place. I'm therefore taking this first opportunity to render an account of what happened there and its significance to us, to Africa and the whole world. For the first time in African history, representatives of 31 independent African states, north and the south of the Sahara, met in the capital of the ancient kingdom of Ethiopia. As you are all aware, the meeting of heads of states and governments was preceded by the preparatory conference of foreign ministers of the 31 countries. From the moment that the main conference was declared open on Wednesday, the 22nd of May, to the closing session on Saturday, the 25th, an atmosphere of brotherhood and interdependence pervaded the conference, and it was not long before everyone realized that even though our methods of approach may differ, our primary objectives remain the same. There was unanimity in our determination to take all practicable measures to ensure the liberation of the remaining countries of Africa from colonialism. We all realized that for as long as parts of Africa suffered under the humiliating yoke of colonialism and apartheid, our freedom and independence would not be complete. It was therefore not surprising that the conference took far-reaching decisions on how to assist our fellow Africans who are now fighting in Angola, Mozambique, and South Africa, and other parts of the continent to regain their lost freedom.
Κύριε το βράδυ θυμάμαι, δεν είχε ξαναγίνει τέτοια κακοκαιρία. Είχε ξεπεράσει το χειμώνα κύμα η θάλασσα πάνω.
There are some stories that live on because they help us remember those we've lost.
Θα πούμε εδώ.
And others because they sound unique.
Αυτό ήταν.
Πήγαμε στο Σύνταγμα να δω που είχαν στρατοπεδεύσει μέσα στην πλατεία του Συντάγματος. Με τεθωρακισμένα κτλ.
Stories that endure because we must not forget them.
Όταν ακούσαμε ότι πιάσαν τους Εβραίους και τους βάζαν στα τρένα και τους διώχναν, τότε καταλάβαμε ότι αυτοί δεν θα γεννούσαν τη ζωντανή.
And some that persist because they hold useful lessons for the future. These stories must be preserved. The Stavros Niarchos Foundation supports efforts to record personal testimonies that reflect the tide of history, interesting moments from the past, and notable events. Historama combines journalism with history.
It is with humility, mingled with joy, that I thank this grand concourse of patriots and friends of Nigeria for congregating here today on the occasion of my inauguration as the first African Governor General and Commander-in-Chief of the Federation of Nigeria. I was appointed to this post of high honor by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on the advice of the Prime Minister of Nigeria to succeed my predecessor in office, that accomplished colonial administrator, Sir James Robertson, GCMG, GCVO, KBE. This mighty audience comprises of eminent men and women drawn from all the regions of Nigeria and different parts of Africa, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. We have in this august assemblage representatives of heads of states and governments, paramount rulers and chieftains, statesmen and politicians, nationalists and freedom fighters, university administrators and professors, trade union leaders and ex-servicemen, local government heads and civil servants, molders of public opinion, in addition to professional men and women, in different walks of life, including a select group of invitees who represent various organizations which are interested in Africa and in the orderly progress of our country towards national autonomy. Whilst it is a fact that the Commonwealth is a voluntary association which is loose, flexible, and adaptable, and its members value it for its varied variety and multiplicity of outlook, its member governments sometimes acting in unison, sometimes separately, but always freely exchanging views and information, and always adding something to a common pool of mutual understanding. Nevertheless, Nigerians cannot be expected to be supine when such a basic human right as respect for human dignity is violated with impunity in any part of the Commonwealth or in any part of the world. The challenge of Nigeria as a free state in 20th century Africa is the need to revive the stature of man in Africa and restore the dignity of man in the world. Nigerians believe passionately in the fundamental human rights. We regard all races of the human family as equal. Under no circumstance shall we accept the idea that the black race is inferior to any other race. I call upon Alhaji Amadu Bello, the Sultan of Sokoto, to join us in this Herculean task of national reconstruction. I exhort Chief Obafemi Awolowo to associate with us in this great adventure of restoring the dignity of man in the world. There are many leaders who can give active support and assistance to a nation at its supreme hour of need. Chief Samuel Ladoke Akintola, Dr. Michael Ihanukara Opala, and Samuel Grace Ikoku, and then Chief Dennis Chukude of Sarebe, Malam Aminu Kanu, Malam Ibrahim Imam, and J.S. Taka of Northern Nigeria, and countless others. I appeal to all our leaders, far and near, to forget the wounds which were inflicted in cause of our internecine altercations. The love of our country should outweigh the love of our petty selves. The enjoyment of individual freedom under the law should mean more to us than our self-centered party programs and manifestos. Common dangers and common enemies alert us on the need for common security. The British came here in 1851, and found us hopelessly divided in tribal compartments. When Britain transferred power to us on 1st October 1960, we were no longer an expression of geography, but a reality of history. During all our years of political vassalage, we became socially and economically integrated. We have also developed an identity of interest, and we have crystallized common nationality. The process of political integration reached its zenith at midnight on 30th September 1960, when we lastly sang our national anthem and our national flag was hoisted aloft to signal the birth of a new nation. Come and join Abubakar with me, Sadauna, Awolowo, Akitola, Osarebe, Okpara, Ikoku, Aminu Kano, Ibrahim Imam, and Saka. Let us bind the nation's wound and let us heal the breaches of the past so that in forging our nation, there shall emerge on this continent a hate-free, fear-free, and greed-free people who shall be in the vanguard of a world task force whose assignment is not only to revive the stature of man in Africa, but to restore the dignity of man in the world. If I am asked whether I am happy because Nigeria is free and the Nigerian government appears to be stable, and the people of Nigeria are apparently satisfied that the price of freedom and the price our leaders paid for it were worth the sacrifice, I would answer in the affirmative.
In the regions, there will be military government under a military governor, assisted by an advisor who is the last person to hold the office of the regional governor. The normal function of government in each region will be carried on by the permanent secretaries in the region, and they will be directly responsible to the military government there. The regional military government are directly responsible to the head of the federal military government and the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Public corporations and other state bodies, such as local government, will continue to function under the appropriate ministries. All existing laws, regulations, orders, and official instructions remain in force, wherever applicable, until either modified or abrogated by the federal military government. Will there be press censorship during this regime? I do not think that I should start off with press censorship. But I may impose censorship if it became necessary. My main concern is to restore law and order as soon as possible.
Fellow Nigerians, it is my pleasant duty today to launch the second National Development Plan 1970-74. This program of post-war reconstruction and development marks another decisive step in the nation's forward march to progress and stability. You will recall my Independence Day announcement that the 5 national objectives on which the plan is based are to make Nigeria 1. A united, strong and self-reliant nation. 2. A great and dynamic economy. 3. A just and egalitarian society. 4. A land of full and equal opportunities for all its citizens. And 5. A free and democratic society. The Supreme Military Council has resolved that all persons in position of trust in this country, no matter how highly placed, must work henceforth for the full realization of these objectives. The plan itself seeks to translate these objectives into concrete programs which will benefit all sections of the Nigerian community. The second national plan covers the whole country and all aspects of the national economy. Every part of the country will feel the impact of the plan in the next 4 years. The destiny of Nigeria lies in the hands of all Nigerians. The second national plan has set out the guidelines for safeguarding our national interest.
Fellow Nigerians, events of the past few years have indicated that despite our great human and material resources, the government has not been able to fulfill the legitimate expectations of our people. Nigeria has been left to drift. This situation, if not arrested, would inevitably have resulted in chaos and even bloodshed. In the endeavor to build a strong, united, and virile nation, Nigerians have shed much blood. The thought of further bloodshed, for whatever reasons, must, I am sure, be revolting to our people. The armed forces, having examined the situation, came to the conclusion that certain changes were inevitable. After the Civil War, the affairs of state, hitherto a collective responsibility, became characterized by a lack of consultation, indecision, indiscipline, and even neglect.
In a few aspects of our national endeavor, is the pressure for modernization so intense today as in our aviation industry? Those involved in or familiar with the industry know that aviation is a growing, fast-changing, and time-saving industry. It is an important and functional aspect of national development which no country can. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have great pleasure and honor in declaring this airport formally open for the greater progress of Nigeria, closer understanding between mankind, and greater glory of God. Thank you very much.
It is pertinent to recall that our first efforts at democracy and self-government were abruptly arrested in the mid-60s, largely as a result of the incongenial atmosphere engendered by the uncompromising stance adopted by the political parties of the First Republic. Thus, opportunities were lost for our people to interact and learn to accommodate different points of view for the betterment of the country. We must not allow that episode to repeat itself. The new system that will have adopted presents us with yet another opportunity to achieve national integration, which is a prerequisite for the building of a strong and virile nation. Let it be known that our commitment to the total liberation of our brothers in Zimbabwe, Namibia, and South Africa, our commitment in Zimbabwe, Namibia, and South Africa remains unshaken. We also desire to maintain peace and close ties with our immediate neighbors. And we shall work relentlessly to uphold the dignity of the black race.
The Nigerian armed forces fulfilled their promise to end 13 years of military rule in 1979 when they voluntarily handed over the reins of power to the civilians. The essentials of good government as seen by the people of this country were contained in the provisions of the suspended 1979 Constitution, particularly Chapter 11 thereof, which relates to the fundamental objectives and the directive principles of state policy. However,
the Nigerian people watched helplessly while over the succeeding 4-year period of the first term of the defunct administration, most of government of the Federation failed to provide even the minimum of good government. The otherwise born economy of the first two fiscal years, 1979-1980 and 1980, was allowed to run down through mismanagement. Not only was there an inadequate response to the global recession caused by the worldwide oil glut and the oil production crisis which beset OPEC member countries, but measures designed to curb Nigeria's vulnerability to the vagaries of oil market were applied in half-hearted manner. The monetary and fiscal measures introduced under Economic Stabilization Act 1982 to boost local production of goods, improve foreign exchange reserves, and make the economy more self-sufficient and self-reliant were not implemented in a manner in which they could have the desired effect. The promised import food item to supplement the shortfall in agricultural production was not fulfilled for the benefit of the people. What quantity was brought in was either diverted, hoarded, or sold at prices beyond the reach of the ordinary man. The administration of the import licensing system was so corrupt that licenses were denied to genuine importers and manufacturers, only to be given to middlemen whose only interest in these licenses was to hawk them around. Fraudulent acts, armed robbery, etc. became the order of the day. The government seemed unable or unwilling to deal firmly with perpetrators of such acts. When the executive branch of the government failed, the people expected relief from the legislative branch, which was invested with the power within the checks and balances in the Constitution to ensure that the executive provided good government. The legislators, however, were in no position to check the drift of the executive since they were not active collaborators. They were preoccupied with other things of no benefit to the people whom they presented. It was not difficult to see that the failings of the executive and legislators would shake the confidence of the people in the system of government which they had adopted at such high costs. Thus, in the midst of their intolerable suffering and the general deterioration in the standard of living, which worsened as time rolled by, the people could only look forward to a change in their circumstances by the installation, through the mechanism of the ballot box, of a government with a more purposeful and responsible leadership.
We have put in our best. We have had sleepless nights. There have been periods of joy, sadness, and frustration. There have been periods of satisfaction and sense of fulfillment. There have been periods of dismay and disappointment. And the interim national government has followed. To ensure, in fact, they threaten fire and brimstone. They tread the path of confrontation and sometimes treason. They are a small group, but they make the most noise, like the proverbial empty barrel.
The interim national government, ladies and gentlemen, may be a child of circumstance, but it is high time we came to terms with the reality of our circumstances. Military rule is over in Nigeria. However, ladies and gentlemen, serious dissension among the political class still persists, and this remains a clog in the wheel of transition. For us as a people, the working of a National Assembly is today the clearest insight we can have to the thinking, strategy, and vision of our political class.
Sequel to the resignation of the former head of the interim national government, and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Chief Ernest Shonekan, and my subsequent appointment as Head of State and Commander-in-Chief, I have had extensive consultations within the Armed Forces hierarchy and other well-meaning Nigerians in a bid to find solutions to the various political, economic, and social problems which have engulfed our beloved country and which have made life most difficult to the ordinary citizens of this nation. Chief Ernest Shonekan took over as Head of State and Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces at the most trying time in the history of our country. Politically, economically, and socially, there were lots of uncertainties. Things appeared bleak, and the atmosphere was heavy with uncertainties. However, driven by the belief in himself, his countrymen, and love for his country, he accepted to face the challenges of our time. I will therefore like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to him for his selfless service to the nation. He showed great courage at taking on the daunting task of heading the international government, even a greater courage to know when to leave. Many have expressed fears about the apparent return of the military. Consequently, the following decisions come into immediate effect. The international government is hereby dissolved. The national and state assemblies are also dissolved. The state executive councils are dissolved. The brigade commanders are to take over from the governors in their states until administrators are appointed. Where there are no brigade commanders, the commissioners of police in the states are to take over. All local governments stand dissolved. The directors of personnel are to take over the administration of the local governments until administrators are appointed. The National Electoral Commission is hereby dissolved. All former secretaries to federal ministries are to hand over to their director generals until ministers are appointed. The two political parties are hereby dissolved. All processions, political meetings, and associations of any type in any part of the country are hereby banned. Any consultative committee, by whatever name called, is hereby proscribed. Decree 61 of 1993 is hereby abrogated.
Fellow Nigerians, it is with a very heavy heart that I address you for the second time since destiny bestowed upon me the mantle of leadership of our beloved nation. Exactly 1 month ago, we were shocked by the sudden passing away of our late head of state, General Sani Abacha. As we conclude the official 30 days mourning of this great loss, we are now challenged by another national tragedy. The passing away yesterday of Chief Moshood Abiola was as sudden as it was tragic. Particularly, he died on the brink of his release from detention. For me personally, and for the nation at large, this must be one of the saddest moments of our life. I never envisaged that I would be faced with such momentous tragedies within the space of 1 month. When I accepted the burden of leadership on the 8th of June, I was conscious of the fact that these are critical and trying times in the history of our nation. I was keenly aware of the imperatives of national reconciliation and restoration of democracy to our troubled nation in an atmosphere of peace and stability. I was also determined re-establish the professional image and integrity of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to enable them play their traditional role in the coming democratic order. I have resolved to address these challenges in an organized, deliberate, and orderly fashion, always putting the highest national interest before all else. Chief Abiola would have contributed his own quota to this process. It was in recognition of this inescapable fact that, after a series of consultation between Chief Abiola and government on the one hand, and between him and representatives of the international community, as well as members of his family, that a meeting of the Provisional Ruling Council was convened for today to decide on his release. Alas, God willed otherwise, and today we mourn his loss. Government has already ordered full autopsy to establish the actual cause of his death. The autopsy is being undertaken in cooperation with Abiola family and the participation of experts pathologists from the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada, as requested by his family.
As your president to head a democratic civilian administration, I believe that this is what God Almighty has ordained for me and for my beloved country, Nigeria, and its people. I accept this destiny in all humility and with the full belief that with the backing and support of our people, we shall not fail. The beneficiaries of corruption in all forms will fight back with all the foul means at their disposal. We shall be firm with them. There will be no sacred cows. Nobody, no matter who and where, will be allowed to get away with the breach of the law or the perpetration of corruption and evil.
Today is a historic day for our nation, for it marks an important milestone in our march towards a maturing democracy. For the first time since we cast off the shackles of colonialism almost half a century ago, we have at last managed an orderly transition from one elected government to another. We acknowledge that our elections were not perfect and had lapses and shortcomings. However, we have well-established legal avenues of redress, and I urge anyone aggrieved to pursue them. I also believe that our experiences represent an opportunity to learn from our mistakes. Accordingly, I will set up a panel to examine the entire electoral process with a view to effective reforms and ensuring that we raise the quality and standard of our general elections to meet international standards. I will make this a national priority at the conclusion of the legal processes. Today also marks a generational shift when we, the children of independence, assume the responsibility of national leadership. My fellow citizens, I am humbled and honored that you have chosen me and Vice President Jonathan to represent that generation in the task of building a just and humane nation, while its people have a fair chance to attain their fullest potential. Luckily, we are not starting from scratch. We are fortunate to have been led in the past 8 years by one of our nation's greatest patriots, President Olusegun Obasanjo. On behalf of all our people, I salute you, Mr. President, for your vision, your courage, and your boundless energy in creating the roadmap toward that united and economically thriving Nigeria that we all seek.
Now here's story. Who want to spend the second on my head? You go take out, carry out. You go die.
Fellow Nigerians, I greet and felicitate with you all today as we mark 15 years of uninterrupted democratic governance in our beloved country. Our dear nation, Nigeria, has certainly come a long way and made notable progress since our first democracy day on May 29, 1999, when the military finally relinquished power and handed over to a democratically elected government, marking the true beginning of a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Although I have ordered a low-key commemoration of this year's Democracy Day in deference to the current mood of the nation, there can be no doubt that the past 15 years, the longest period of sustained democratic governance in our country, have been a blessing to us as a people. As we commemorate 15 years of our Fourth Republic today, therefore, I believe that it's fitting that we pay tribute once again to all those who played a part in restoring our nation to the true path of democratic governance built on the foundations of rule of law and freedom of expression.
Hello, Nigerians. The 2020 celebration of Democracy Day marks 21 years of uninterrupted civil administration in our dear country. This day provides us an opportunity to reflect on our journey as a nation, our achievements and struggles. It is a day to honor our founding fathers who toiled to establish our republic and every Nigerian who has worked tirelessly to sustain it. We are celebrating this year's Democracy Day despite the COVID-19 pandemic, which afflicts our nation and the whole world. It is indeed a very difficult time for everyone, especially those who have lost loved ones to the virus and those whose sources of livelihood have been severely constrained by the stringent measures we introduce at every level of government to contain the virus and save lives. The dedication of our health and other essential services staff towards containing this virus is a testament of our courage and resilience as a people and as a great nation. And I use this opportunity to say thank you to all of you for your service to the nation. Sustaining our democracy thus far has been a collective struggle, and I congratulate all Nigerians and particularly leaders of our democratic institutions for their resilience and determination to ensure that Nigeria remains a shining example of democracy. In my 2019 Democracy Day address, I promised to promptly address the nation's daunting challenges, especially insecurity, economy, and corruption. I therefore find it necessary to give you an account of my stewardship on this day. We have recorded notable achievements in the course of implementing our 9 priority objectives and are establishing a solid foundation for future success. On the economic front, our objectives have remained to stabilize the macroeconomy, achieve agricultural and food security, ensure energy sufficiency in power and petroleum products, develop infrastructure, fight corruption, and improve governance.
Is your laundry routine enough to kill bacteria? Add Dettol laundry sanitizer to every wash. It kills 99.9% of bacteria and COVID-19 virus, even at 20 degrees. Don't just wash.